Hi guys. So I believe we are live. So I'm sorry. I Some people, if they're keeping track of the chat, Antonia has not logged in yet, so she's not here yet. But basically, if I don't start within like 7 to 9 minutes of the time that the stream is supposed to start, then the stream gets deleted. So I just popped her a message and told her that I'm going to start without her. There are different time zones, so maybe something got confused. I don't know. But the whole show was going to be talking to her, so I guess we're just gonna wing it. so, I already saw that. Oh! I think she's coming in. All right, hold on, guys. Let me see if I can uh, give you something to look at and see if I can figure out how to chat with her. Well, all right, we're just gonna go with it. Hello.
Hey, sorry about that.
Hi. That's okay. I was like in the chat and I was like, what do I do, guys?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Technology is fun.
Yes,
well,
it is.
so I was just about to go in and tell everyone to give the video a thumbs up, share it around, visit the partners in the description. For anyone who's new to the channel, we do something here where every time you send a super chat, I drink some water because I'm really bad at hydrating during my live streams.
Okay. Oh my goodness. And then your lips get like all,
Yeah, and it's gross. And I have a really bad habit of like yelling into my microphone too. So by the time it's done, I'm like thirsty and hoarse and it's gross. Um, and even though we are at a different time than usual, I see we have a lot of people in the chat. Jesse Meek is here. He was actually the first one on board today. We have Michael Peel, Chris White, Mike Malone is here, John Pilge. I saw Q in there, Bill Young, and let's see, Mr. Hellspawn is here. Freebird 0147, John Wellman, SNC. Lots of people in here today. Michael Quintero, John Morgan. The gang is here. Rose Blight. Oh, you made it, Rose. So we got lots of peeps going on. And then I will read this super chat because they already did it. And then we'll get going. So Trashman4444 always gives me an intro now. It's his new thing. So live from Liberty headquarters, it's the lady who plays Dungeons and Dragons in case she has to go medieval on someone's ass for real. Plays disc golf in case she's sucked into a Tron-like computer simulation and pops caps for fun. Here's Dolly. That was a little embarrassing, actually.
Hey,
All right. Well, anyways, so thank you for making it and coming on the show. This is very, very exciting. So originally today, when I reached out to Gun Owners of America, it was because a lot of people on my channel were really, I mean, Virginia was the big thing, and it is still the big thing. And a lot of people were really worried and upset and thinking that, you know, it was the worst year ever for Second Amendment rights, and they were all going to be eroded away, and we're steps away from confiscation and all that. And, you know, I wanted to have someone from GOA to come on and be like, hey, well, this is what we're doing to help you guys and help the Second Amendment. And as I was like watching some of the videos that you've put out and GOA has put out, I actually got a lot more optimistic. So, so I figured we'll take a little diversion from that, and I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your journey, and then of course touch on how horrible 2019 was. I believe you said in the State of the Second Amendment video that you were in that it was like the worst year in 25 years for gun rights, but that you're optimistic now. And so that's
I know.
So why don't you introduce yourself for everyone who doesn't know who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, thank you so much. So my name is Antonia Okafor, and I definitely don't have the average, I would say, gun rights activist background. Didn't go hunting, gunning. That'd be fun too. I didn't go gunning nor hunting with my dad or anything like that growing up. My parents are Nigerian immigrants, actually, so Second Amendment was very foreign to them. Pun intended, yeah. And I grew up in Texas, though, native Texan. But I actually grew up mostly, for the most part, anti-gun. Even maybe less so, more apathetic, which I think is most of the country when it comes to, unfortunately, most of the country when it comes to the Second Amendment issue is just they don't really have an opinion, other than what happens when some mass shooting happens or whatever. I was kind of in the enough is enough crowd just because I didn't know any better. But then I went to college, and which usually it's like the opposite. That doesn't usually work that way. It's not like you go to college and then you actually understand that if I'm really going to empower myself and empower other women, then I'm going to be a really good feminist, and I actually should empower women by encouraging them to take safety into their own hands. So that kind of set the trajectory from where I am now. It's been a few years since then, complete 180 since then, and I've been pushing gun rights or women's rights and empowering women and students and minorities, everyone, that essentially the left, the anti-gun left, says that gun rights should not be for. So that's a little synopsis of what I've been doing the last few years.
Yeah, I was reading some articles that had talked about, your journey into getting into gun rights, and I thought it was interesting because we had a little bit of a similar story. So
okay.
I'm a first generation American as well in my family on my mom's side, but she's from Canada. So I mean, they also don't have gun rights, and I didn't grow up in Texas, so that was different. But growing up in Massachusetts, also a very not gun friendly family, also never went hunting or gunning. So I thought that was really interesting. But so, and then when you were in college, you got involved with pushing for campus carry, and then I believe one of the organizations that you started helped get campus carry in Texas. Is that correct?
So I was one of the leaders for Students for Concealed Carry in college. I was in college, so like 2015, 2016, when they were trying to pass it in Texas. The organization is the one that I give credit to for passing it. I just started my own organization a little after because of the reasons, like I said before. I really felt that like the Second Amendment community didn't really harness the fact that there were women who wanted to be empowered, and that was a great way to do that. And so I started an organization called Empower 2A a year or two after I left Students for Concealed Carry, and continued to push on the campus carry movement. But our organization didn't pass campus carry in Texas. We just have made it a goal to pass in other states since then.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then from there, you got hooked up with Gun Owners of America, right?
Yeah. So November was official. I've been with Gun Owners of America. I'm the new director of outreach, and essentially been doing what I've been doing the last couple of years on my own with Empower 2A. And Empower 2A is now the student organization for Gun Owners of America. So I just intend to do what I was doing before, which is going on college campuses, speaking about gun rights, speaking about the Second Amendment, the Constitution, and why students should get involved, and also getting older people involved in the fact that there is a whole student movement around campus carry, around pushing the fact that if you really want to empower a woman who is afraid of sexual assault on a college campus and talking about rape culture, then let's bring the Second Amendment idea into this whole thing. So that's kind of been what I've been doing the last few years.
Right, because I mean, gun rights are the ultimate equalizer. They always talk about like, oh, women, can't defend against an attacker, or the statistics of it's like 1 in 5, or sometimes they say 1 in 4 women are assaulted on college campuses, and yet they are trying to take away the exact tools that women could use to defend themselves and prevent some of these situations.
Absolutely. And the thing is of course, like people are like, well, gun rights are not just women's rights, they're human rights. Yes, obviously they're not just women's rights. Someone was like, wouldn't it be really feminist if they just try to like make gun rights only for women? Like they would just do that. I was like, yeah, I probably could see them doing that if they wanted to go really extreme. It's like, well, then only women can have gun rights. Doesn't work like that. But the whole narrative is pushing against, because as a young woman, I always get from the anti-gun side that you shouldn't have a gun, that a gun is especially oppressive to a woman. It's always, I find it fascinating how sexist the narrative is too. It's just like, oh, you poor woman, you could never, like, if you ever even tried, I mean, it would probably just go off. I'm like, okay, we're a little smarter than that. Just a little bit better than what you think we can do. And in fact, anything, the Second Amendment crowd thinks that we're, just as capable. So that was kind of like the narrative of pushing against the narrative that women shouldn't have guns. No, if anything, history has shown that oppressed groups like African Americans, like whatever oppressed group you're looking at, and then especially women should utilize, exercise their right to self-defense more so than anybody else. So, right. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, and there is this huge narrative, and we saw it with all the media coverage going into Virginia, that, and even in going into the election, that gun rights are, or even guns in general, are a middle-aged white male issue.
White supremacist thing, that's what the rally was, or apparently in Richmond that I spoke at. It was like a really big white supremacist rally. I was really afraid. Obviously not. They asked me to speak for a reason. So yeah, I know that's one of the narratives is, not just the woman's side issue, but it's that it's a race issue, that it's suddenly only for white people, even though history again shows time and time and again with Black codes, slave codes, with Jim Crow laws, that they all have a root. The root has always been about racism and controlling those who are oppressed. So it's again, they didn't expect a Black woman to actually do her history and like figure out like, oh yeah, it's actually the exact opposite. Oh yeah, the KKK, they started as a gun control group. Right. Yeah, I can read. So yeah. That's
well, I mean, and with that rally, I would read all these articles from like the mainstream outlets. I hate using that word because it sounds so Alex Jones, but these big media outlets talking about like all the white supremacist people going to speak there, and not in a single article did I see your name listed as one of the speakers. It was only on like, obviously, like the pro-gun blogs and things like that. And it's like, that's a pretty crucial piece of information.
I mean, it's almost like they don't want that narrative to go out or something. Right. I don't know. I'm used to it at this point. I'm actually surprised at the couple of articles that, I mean, they said I was a GOA spokesperson. One even alluded later on in the article, it's like, GOA spokesperson. Oh yeah, also by the way, she's Black herself. I was like, thanks, Newsweek. Yeah, I was actually kind of pretty surprised on that one, but at least like, of course, we're not going to put Black woman says that MLK Day was, this is really reminiscent of MLK Day, and seeing all these people who are coming for, again, not their skin color, but the content of their character. Mm-hmm. A lot of them tried to just, push it on the rug or just completely ignore me. After all, because that's the thing, is it's a fact, it's true that we were all there for a reason that had nothing to do with our skin color or our gender. It's just that we are human beings, and that we all care about our God-given rights. So yeah, they didn't like that.
I mean, and the VCDL having their rally on that day is nothing new. They've been doing it for almost 2 decades.
Absolutely. Yeah. 2 decades. And you know what? And that was the biggest thing too. They were so focused on the fact that no violence occurred, well, it's been going on for almost 2 decades and nothing has happened. So yeah, I felt safe. If anything, I was jealous of all the people who were able to bring their guns, because I had to choose between speaking at the Capitol, which was up there when gun-free zone, right? Mm-hmm. Which is not true. But and everybody else, like down in Virginia, like 22,000, they say, which I know is a lot more than that. Actually had their guns. Yeah. So I was jealous looking at everybody. I was like, whoa, you have that already? I'm like, Oh, okay, fine. I have to go speak, but I'm probably going to look at you later on and talk to you about that. So it was
Yeah,
fun.
I actually, so I heard numbers anywhere from like 33,000 to like 120,000.
Oh wow! I am not. That's math is not my forte. That's for sure. But I definitely think it was a way more than 22,000. I've been
Definitely.
to a lot more marches that have been similar than that, or if not less. And 22,000 for one, 22,000 was the estimate of just the people who were going to be registered in the buses alone, just through the
Right.
buses. So that is a very, very, very conservative number. I think.
That's what I thought too. Let me grab this super chat and then I'll go to the next question. Hal Edwards says, "Greetings, Liberty Doll and Antonia. I'm promoting the idea that Michael Bloomberg is the first man with RBF. If you're familiar with the term, I recommend you look it up." Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that means, so I guess I'll have to look it up later.
I know, I know. I was like resting something syndrome.
Oh, yeah, that's probably what it is.
I don't know what the other two
I mean, we can probably say that because I mean, the reality of it is because you're on my show, this video is probably going to get demonetized. So whatever, might as
It really
well.
will. It probably will.
Um, so it's interesting that you brought up the fact of how you don't think that the media really wants like the narrative of a Black woman supporting gun rights, and I think that's really interesting because there have been rumors that your name alone is like shadow banned on some of these social media sites. I know that there was in April of last year, I think it is, you were one of the channels that got hit with like mass demonetization because they said that you went against all the YouTube standards. And I know that there have been some people that have said like, oh, I just put Antonia Okafor in my tags and my video got flagged. Or I know when I said on Twitter that you were going to be coming on the show, the tweet that had your name in it got like no response. But when I took your name out, like then suddenly people were seeing it. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but
Yeah, well, I mean, when the fact that like Breitbart does a whole investigation into it, and I never got an actual response for them, but thankfully Breitbart did from the YouTuber, YouTube representative, the official one, talked to them and said, "Oh yeah, it was a mistake," and then took me off. That was like after like Donald Trump Jr. talked about it and Dave Rubin and like everybody was talking about it. Because that was one of the first times that they just completely, not just a couple of my videos or some of my videos, completely demonetized my entire channel. Took away every single thing that was on there. So, and then they said it was a mistake. And then, of course, not really that big of a surprise. After it died down, they demonetized my channel again. So I was just kind of just like, at that point, oh yeah, they completely demonetized the whole thing. So at that point, I was just like, if anything, you guys just gave me more publicity with, shutting it down. But finding YouTube to be a source for me to be able to get my message out, and sometimes even less so social media, is becoming harder and harder all the time. And so that's why it's so important for me to continue to go out to speak, but they can't really actually shut me down. They try to when I go and speak in rallies and I'm there. But yeah.
Yeah, I saw that Hampshire, I saw that you did a college tour like last year in Hampshire College was one of the ones that shut you down. Did UMass end up letting you speak? I actually went to UMass Amherst back in the day, so I'm like surprised they even would have let you set foot on the campus.
Yeah, they were the first. So we did a little tour around the people. I forgot what they call it, but it was like UMass Amherst was the first day, and the next day was Hampshire, and then I did Mount Holyoke.
Well, so people from the area will call it the Scooby-Doo gang, but it's actually called, I think, like the Seven Sister Schools or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So that was my little tour. And thankfully I did, UMass Amherst the first night. The second night was when Hampshire College decided to shut me down. Then Mount Holyoke found out about it.
They don't even wear shoes. It's fine.
They don't wear shoes. Yes.
No, they don't. They don't have. They don't wear shoes. Shirts are optional, and they have no grades.
That is what I've heard about that one. They also don't allow their security guards to have any firearms. So I was not. Wow. Yeah. The next day, I didn't feel very safe. That's for sure. After it went international, they kicked me out of the school. So yeah, this is one of the many things. People would be like, oh yeah, and then I read this about, I was like, oh yeah, that happened, I forgot. Because I try to like move on with things. Otherwise I would probably, if I like actually thought about all the stuff that schools and the media try to do to like keep me from speaking my voice, speaking out, I would probably just not speak out anymore. So yeah, it's funny to me now. So
well, I mean, and one of the things that one of the recent videos that I think Eric Pratt talked about was just, how the Second Amendment and gun owners, we rely on this grassroots movement because we don't have the media behind us. We certainly don't have Congress behind us. And so we rely on social media and grassroots efforts and GOA and you and all that to like get a lot of this information out there and do a lot of the legwork. So in light of all the stuff that was going on last year with the gun control movement, what kind of things were GOA able to accomplish, and like what were you guys doing, behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, I think probably one of the biggest things is that we were one of the big organizations that, that said we're not even going to stand behind a president that should be on our side when it comes to the gun issue, but just to show that we are a no compromise organization, that we're going to sue when it comes to the fact that you're trying to push the bump stock ban. We don't care who you are. It's unconstitutional. It's against what, if you're saying that you're for our rights, regardless of what they are, then you should be on our side. So I think that was one of the biggest things that really kept, really set us apart from other organizations, for one. And we're still continuing on full speed ahead with that one, and we're very optimistic. We are really optimistic about that going out of the courts and in our favor, hopefully this year. So that's a big one. And then the other one that's essentially with Virginia is the sanctuary amendment. That's the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances, that, that big movement, that it was completely grassroots, and GOA has made it their national number one national priority, and we're doing it state by state, but it's really something we're trying to help every state and every community and county to push these ordinances.
Well, and I mean, I know that there was a lot of bad press, we'll say, about the NRA over the last year. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about them, but I know that one of the complaints that came up, well, that's been coming up for years and years, and is why I haven't been a member for several years, is because of how much they compromised. But a lot of people were saying that, okay, well, without the NRA, there's no one. And there were a lot of people out there that I found that didn't really understand what Gun Owners of America does, because they were like, oh, well, the NRA is the only one that files lawsuits, or the NRA is the only group that does this, or the NRA is the only group that does that. And that's not true. I mean, you just said yourself, like, GOA has this lawsuit about the bump stocks. There was a video that I watched where Eric Pratt said that through the GOA members, there were 3 million messages sent to Congress. I mean, that's amazing. That is huge.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, it's completely grassroots. And that's why I've been so excited to join GOA and to be a part of this team, is that I've never had, even my campus carry days, back when everyone thought we were psychos and crazies because we wanted guns on campus, we actually thought students had rights too. It wasn't popular with some, organizations as well. So GOA, I've never had to convince that we have rights too. And that's what I think a lot of people love about GOA, is that they're usually the ones that people are just like, oh, come on, you're taking it too far. And a couple of years later, they're like, oh man, they're right. They're right. And they're always right. Of course, it's GOA. So I'm glad I am on the right team. And I think it's just going to continue to focus on that. It's getting people are moving to our side. The exponential growth that we've seen just the last year alone shows that people, improves that people trust GOA to stand by their rights and to continue in the future. So I'm really excited to see what it's going to look like in this year, but even in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys converted me this past year, and there is a link in the description for everyone if they want to go check out GOA and sign up.
Absolutely. Yes, do it. Liberty Doll. Oh, well, I guess it's the only link, so I don't have to say it out loud again. Yeah, I'm really appreciative of that. You're friends with Guns and Gadgets as well,
yes.
which is a big supporter of ours as well. It has done amazing work for GOA. But yeah, again, it's the grassroots, it's the YouTubers, it's the people who are outside of, like you said, mainstream media that we have to go to. I mean, even this election, I mean, they have Bloomberg, and they've always had Bloomberg, right? Big money. Right. But we have just like what happened in Virginia. It was beautiful to see essentially all the people that I knew were behind the scenes working hard to push for their rights. I tried not to say gun rights anymore. For their rights, protected by the Constitution, finally realized in thousands of people in one place. So it's always been there. The gun vote is strong, and I think that's what Virginia definitely symbolized that day.
Right. Oh, I mean, it was inspiring. And I mean, the fact that, there was even Antifa members saying that they supported gun rights, and it's like, oh man, I don't know if we want to be in league with Antifa, but like if they have a problem with these laws, that should be telling you something.
Absolutely. I mean, there are Black Panther people there. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to that. It doesn't matter like what background you have or ideology. It really just comes down to, do you understand that you have a liberty, you have liberties and rights that are inalienable and have nothing to do with the government. And if the government is not protecting them, there is something very wrong. And also, especially from someone that's essentially a, blackface, type of, user on the side, there should be something that we should be keeping accountable at all times. So, yeah.
I mean, and it's great. It was great to see everything in Virginia. And I also really appreciate that you guys tried to give VCDL like an extra hour of speaking time. Because I was going to be on that block, and then the state was like, no. I wasn't. But I was almost there. But it's nice to see like everything happening in Virginia and everything that you guys are doing, because at least for me, living in Massachusetts, like if you're a gun owner here, you're sort of like living a double life where you have to keep it secret. Like there's no one that really knows that much about my channel or even my views or what I do, because it's actually, at times it's flat out dangerous to be like, yes, I am a gun owner in the state of Massachusetts. So living in this bubble, it's like, I don't actually know how many gun owners there are out there. I mean, there are the people that come onto my channel and watch my videos and subscribe, but I'm like, okay, but like how many are there out there really? And then that, the huge support all over the internet for Virginia and you guys and all the people that showed up at the rally. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, there's actually a lot of us out there. There's more than people think.
Right, absolutely. But also I thought it was a great opportunity to shine light on organizations that have been doing the work for so long, but they've never really gotten the recognition that they deserve. So it was really great to, be a part of the dinner beforehand, and them saying like, before we would have 300 or something, it'd be great. But then like literally I couldn't even get into the restaurant for a while because it was that packed. Things like that. Like it was amazing to see that these people who've been working for so long are finally getting the recognition that they deserve. And I hope that continues, is that more of the grassroots organizations, those small groups that are just passionate about doing the work and not getting the recognition, do get the recognition, because it's important.
Right. I mean, I honestly, of course, like I hadn't heard of VCDL before any of this, but I do tell people all the time, they're like, okay, well, if we can't support the NRA, who do we support? And I always say, GOA, the Firearms Policy Coalition, but most importantly, like the local gun groups. I mean, because here in Massachusetts, as tyrannical and insane as it is, our local group, the Gun Owners Action League, has been amazing because here they like to do like they do on the federal level. They'll like have this budget bill and they'll be like, oh, here's 65 gun control amendments that we're just tacking onto this budget bill. And, you know, Goal has actually gotten a lot of them axed over the years. And for some reason, the Attorney General is the one here that makes our gun laws, and they have tried probably like a dozen times to take her to court. The courts laugh at us, but they still try to take her to court. And it really is, it's the local groups that are behind a lot of this and a lot of, you know, the defense of the rights, really.
Absolutely. And it didn't have to be the groups even. I think what we saw at GOA a lot was just people coming out to speak at their city council hearings or, just be concerned citizens, which is what I think all of us can ask for, is just ask that every citizen is involved in what their county or their municipality or their state is doing. Unfortunately, so many people don't, or rather, so many people wait until it reaches the federal level or the national level that it's too late for them to get involved. And I saw a lot of that with Virginia, people saying, man, I really should have voted. That was the biggest thing. That was the number one step. Man, I really should have, paid attention when this Republican, quote unquote Republican, actually was voting against my rights. So things like that is what's we're going to keep people, especially government officials, accountable, but also keep our party accountable and keep people who claim to say that they're pro Second Amendment.
Right. So what kind of things does GOA have in the wings for 2020?
Yeah, so a lot of great things. Part of it is why I'm on. So I'm the director of outreach. But the biggest thing is Empowered 2A is a new student organization for GOA. So that means we're going to be going to big states like Florida, like Tennessee, states that are trying to pass campus carry and have been trying to for a long time, and really activating students to help them get involved on the state level. Whether that's campus carry or whether that's helping with constitutional carry. The student movement has in the Second Amendment community has been dormant for the most part, and I've been really passionate about activating these people who are essentially going to be they're not just going to be students forever. They're going to be the next generation of gun owners. So It's important that we're educating and we're getting more and more people into the movement. And I think that's the best way to do that is student outreach, and that's what we're going to be really harnessing and focusing on this year.
Right. I mean, not all college students are David Hogg.
Right. For so many reasons, and thankfully for so many. Okay, maybe I'm going to get in trouble for that one, but yeah, for that especially. I mean, even as a Black woman, the fact that he said that on MLK Day, the whole thing, making it seem like it was like MLK wouldn't have been a gun owner. Like, actually, he was, and he tried to get his concealed carry, and he was denied by a very racist anti-gun Democrat. So I don't know, David Hogg. Maybe you should, before you're I don't even know if he's in Harvard or not yet. All I know is I feel like you should know that, I think, if you're in Harvard.
I wish that he was not in the same state as me, honestly. I really do.
Massachusetts. Oh man.
Well, I mean, and I think it's in, we have to battle that. And there's also the people out there that are like on our side that just, I don't know, go about it the wrong way, for lack of a better term. I mean, I know that like you can go on the internet at any time and Google like Caitlin Bennett, and like 1,000 Caitlin Bennett is awful videos pop up, and it's like, that's not helpful.
Yeah, I do wish we would stop eating our own. We have a lot of, the anti-gun sign has a coalition of themselves. Even if they don't agree, they just always, at the end of the day, want to win. And I'm not saying that we should give up our principles. Obviously not. GOA is about no compromise. But not to the point where it's just like there's more content against people on our side from people on our side than the other side. Probably should back off.
So I want to go through, and I have a lot of super chats that came in actually, but I'm going to get to all of them, but I saw that one of them was specifically a question for you. Have you had any problems with friends or family about being pro Second Amendment?
Oof, man, there's a whole video on that one actually. PragerU, you should look at that. But in the short, yes, I definitely have. I will say I've made some gains too, and that's really nice when you continue. Also, you kind of in the same family, you have to be in the same family, so you can't just leave. So that's a
Well,
thing.
sometimes you can.
You can't. Well, you can leave, but it's like the name is still sticks with you or something like that. So yeah, Thanksgiving and dinner, Thanksgiving and Christmas is always interesting, but I think it's been an opportunity also to be like, look, you obviously know me. You knew me before. I'm not. This is not this like weird thing where I'm switched or anything. It's still me. This is why I believe what I believe. And actually, parents, you guys kind of got me into this whole like value thing. So it's kind of your fault. But yeah, I definitely have had people who have friends who have just decided to bounce completely, but then also friends who are maybe not as vocal, but will say like, look, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I am really impressed with the fact that you stick to your guns and that you continue to, passionately fight for something that you really believe in. Regardless of that, I think people notice that. So that's been great. Mm-hmm. But of course, there's people who don't care.
And as far as things like, what's going on in Virginia and in other states, I mean, Washington has the I-1639, and like they have some major stuff going on. It almost seems like the individual states were like watching Virginia and then all pounced at the same time. I mean, I don't know the kind of resources you guys have. Are you getting involved in any like lawsuits in any of these states, or are you sticking with like federal?
On the state issues, like what's legislative side issues that you're saying, like red flag laws and.
Like, so if the stuff in Virginia, like if their assault weapons ban does get passed, or like the I-1639 in Washington that I think it's been a while since I covered it, but they ban, I think it's anything over like 5 rounds and things like that. I don't know how able you guys are to get involved in that or.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely another thing that we're doing this year as well. We have essentially the director of the state directors and pushing that. We have a few GOA state directors that we have in states like, for example, Pennsylvania, Val Fennell, who's pushing the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances there. And then in places like, of course, Texas with Rachel Malone, who's doing great work there too. We're trying to expand that, and the more that we expand that, the more that those people in those states can do things that are specifically geared for that state. So like in Texas, there's a whole big battle that's going on with the gun issue. And so Rachel is just building up her team over there and making more of Texas its own entity so that we can focus on, when we need to file lawsuits and stuff like that in the state level, we can do that as well. But for the most part, GOA right now, just for right now, is doing a lot of the national fight.
And what would you say to people, because there's a lot of people, the Washington Post, NBC, ABC, of course, like all of the usual suspects, keep telling people like, oh, well, these Second Amendment sanctuaries can't actually do anything. They don't mean anything. Like, what would you say about that?
Well, we fixed that. So go to gunowners.org and look at gunownersaction.org and look at the say-sos, Second Amendment ordinances that we have, which are ordinances. They're not resolutions, which is, it's great. This grassroots movement has been grassroots. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that have been passed are resolutions, and so they don't have legal teeth behind them. And so, again, Val from Pennsylvania, the state director for GOA there, has actually put out a very simple template for people to just download and to essentially put into their own ordinances or municipalities so they can actually have something that has legal backing and teeth behind it. So that is our response to that, is like, you're right, we do need more legal teeth. Okay, here's how we can do it. So we have it now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it's great. So I just posted, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, I just posted a video earlier today too, that there's a lot of states, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and South Carolina are all trying to pass Second Amendment preservation acts as well,
Mm-hmm.
that would say, okay, well, from this point forward, any federal gun control is null and void, and we can't do any state gun control. And there's even a couple of them even have provisions for like red flag laws, or anti-red flag bills, that even have a little section that's like, hey, if you try to do a red flag law anyways, you're going to be a felon now, and then you can't serve in law enforcement or anywhere in the state government. And I think that that's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, and yeah, Pennsylvania is, in fact, that's a good example of that. Is that's one of the things that we're pushing, is people saying essentially we're just keeping the government accountable. Like, look, you made an oath saying that you're going to protect our Constitution and our rights, and so you going against that oath is essentially just us saying like, look, we see you, and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So that's all really what we're doing, is just keeping people accountable. I live in Colorado. The red flag laws just went into effect in January. So it's been really heart-wrenching to see like how people are using that. There's no repercussions for people who continually accuse people. We saw that actually with I don't know if you're keeping up with that case with the mom that lost her son, and then she years later decided to go get a police officer. Thankfully that was thrown out, but that's what we're continuing to see in state by state. So they have to push back.
I mean, and what a lot of people don't realize is, aside from being unconstitutional and against our rights and all of that, like, there is no need for red flag laws, because at least in the mental health world, like, they basically kind of already exist. Every state has mandated reporting, and that's whether someone is suicidal or, going to hurt someone else. And most states also have something called Tarasoff, which is if someone's threatening to hurt someone else, or you think they are, then it is your duty to not only like report them and get them evaluated, but also warn the person that they're threatening. So like, there's already things in place to stop this kind of thing where we can, without taking someone's guns away and taking away like due process.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's against gun control in general is just reinventing the wheel of constantly saying, okay, this didn't work. Okay, now putting this is definitely going to work, and it not working. So it's just an insanity cycle. But I mean, red flag laws out of all of them should be, I mean, again, like you're saying, if you're an Antifa or whatever, like, most people on both sides should be wondering why, government is so involved in taking away, if not just one possession now, which is not a privilege, it's a right, then what can they do next? Of course, they can do a lot more other things. So I think it's waking up a lot of people, maybe not as fast as I would like it to, but it is a little bit slowly.
Well, I mean, and it's unfortunate that, like you said, like, people aren't waking up as quickly as we would like.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it's taking some of these big things like Virginia to happen for people to wake up. But at the same time, at least it's waking them up.
Right. Exactly.
I want to hit some more super chats, because I think I saw some other questions in here. Thank you, Dave Z and Tara. Rose Blight says, according to local Vermont police, there were 125,000 people there. Wow. That's where I had heard it too. On the day someone had talked to a cop somewhere, and they had estimated that. Hal Edwards says, check out his photo. I'm not sure who that's about. And then he said, hope to see you in Georgia. Jesse Meek says, my apologies, Miss Okafor. I was unfamiliar with your channel, but have gone over and subscribed. We'll get caught up on your videos soon. Alas, bad connection today and must go. You dolls rock.
Thank
Um,
you.
Chester Thomas is here, and he is a GOA member. He says GOA
Nice.
members represent. Jim Nugent. Wow, thank you, Jim. He says, thanks to both of you as well as GOA, keeping up with everything going on is a lot of work, and you guys do a great job. It
Thank
is a
you.
lot of work.
Yeah,
um,
it's
John
good stuff.
Thomas says Kentucky has a campus carry bill this session. Oh, well,
Mm,
that's good to know.
that is good to
That's good
know.
to know.
Yeah. Tennessee, Florida with Anthony Sabatini, actually, he's actually pushing the constitutional carry bill there as well in Florida.
Nice.
But yeah, we have a lot of great people on the state side. And that's another thing, because people focus so much on the federal level, even when it comes to congressmen. And we have some great liberty people on that side, especially like Thomas Maxey, talking about Kentucky.
Yes.
But it's really the people on the state legislative side are going to be pushing actual gun bills. So
Mm-hmm.
so important that we identify those people who are doing good stuff there
Well,
too.
and I feel like, the state is important because, like, A, that's what affects people the most in their
Mm-hmm.
daily life, really.
Mm-hmm.
And B, like, we need states like that so that people like me that live in Massachusetts have a place to go to.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I agree, and that's why people are like, I'm native Texan, just left like a year or so ago, and people were saying the same thing about Texas, and I'm just like, yeah, I know, we're working on it. It's like I was planning on moving to Texas, and then I heard about this gun bill. I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna trying to make sure that people from California and Illinois and New York and places like that have a place to be a refugee at.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I know that there have
yeah.
been a lot of states that, well, not a lot, but there's what, 17 constitutional
Mm-hmm.
carry states now? And
Yep.
there's a few others that are pushing. I know, so I'm hoping to move to South Carolina this year. So I really watched them, and I know that they kept trying to do constitutional carry, and Nikki Haley was on board and then got pulled out and wasn't a governor anymore. So I don't really
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on there with that. But I know that there are some states that have it's been coming up and just not passing. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe if more people, called their legislators or something. I mean, if GOA had like 3 million messages going into Congress and were able to block some of these things, I'm sure that there are enough people on the state level that could call, their state legislators and say, like, hey, yeah, like put this in, or, states that want to expand their reciprocity of their concealed carry licenses or something. I think Georgia has something that they're trying to pass with that or something. People in the chat are telling me to drink water because I totally forgot.
Oh, oh, because of the chat. I should probably do the same thing on mine.
um,
Yeah,
so,
but
and
yeah, there's a lot of activity when it comes to especially constitutional carry. But I mean, it sounds really simple, but it really comes down to, are you calling your representative? Are you emailing your representative? They look at that stuff. It's the people.
right.
I've been an intern for those places, and I know that the people that we get to talk to, usually the ones that probably we don't want representing us, but they do it. They talk to us. So, I mean, they're the ones who are being heard. So, trust me, they look every single day. The representatives do. But if you're not calling and you just think that it's gonna happen because we're a pro-gun state, or it's gonna happen because we're a conservative state, or whatever, it's just not gonna get through. That's what we saw with campus carry. I saw that personally firsthand, of even people who say they're Republicans and then changing their vote because no one was really keeping them accountable. So
Right.
you have to call, you have to email, you need to be there. It makes a big difference. Trust me.
Right. Um, Michael says, is GOA active in Washington state and pushing back against Jay Inslee and the Attorney General's gun control bills? You two rock. Thanks for all you do. So, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, GOA, I mean, do they have a rep in every state, or is that something you guys are still working on?
Yeah, we're still working on that, to have directors. We're really, really selective about the people who are there. As you can see with the directors that we already have already, and like in Pennsylvania and Louisiana, for example, of people who are very involved and who are doing this completely on a volunteer basis. Again, this is grassroots. So yeah, we don't have one person right now as a state director in Washington. But if you have an idea, please let us know. Email us. Email me, Antonia@gunowners.org. I'm serious. So let us know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because I don't know how you guys go about, like, if it's a position that you like how someone gets assigned to that, but yeah, I mean, if people have suggestions, email them up. um J. Derek Williams says my county in South Carolina, Horry County, I don't know if that's how you say it, is voting on a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution on February 18th. We would be the first county in South Carolina. Oh, that's good to
Okay.
know.
Let me write that down.
It's Horry County, February 18th.
Okay, cool. I will talk to Matt about that.
I'm gonna have to see what towns are in that county. But I mean, I feel like in some of these places it's sort of like been a domino effect where, because I mean, if you look, there's even a sanctuary county in Pennsylvania, there's one in Jersey, there's one in Maryland. But I mean, Illinois, for example, more than half of the county, as it looks like. So I feel like it's kind of like once you get one, then another county would be like, oh, well, maybe we could do this. And then another one's like, oh, well, we can do it too. And then it starts to spread. When I looked at the map recently that showed how many sanctuary counties there really are, I was amazed. I had no idea that it was that many.
Oh yeah, it's really, when you see the numbers, it's awesome because all of that's grassroots. No one's paying them, no one's doing anything. It's just people, rising up and saying that I've had enough. So yeah, it's been a good infection that I've seen going around this United States is the liberty infection. Very good. But yeah, it's been really great to see that, and especially in states that have usually been. Like Florida, for example, and like places that they've had to really go back and forth when it comes to leadership betraying them, or like people who are just circumventing the party altogether or their leadership altogether and just getting it done county by county or even city by city. It's been really cool to see that too.
So he just said that the H is silent, so it's Horry County, and it's the county that has Myrtle Beach. So that'll be interesting to see, actually, because isn't that county typically? I would imagine it's more liberal because it's like touristy. I know that Charleston is a little more on the liberal side. I went there and I felt like I was in Boston, and it made me unhappy.
Oh no, so weird. I mean, that's how I feel like when I go to Austin every time I'm in Texas. But
I've heard. So there's lots of people asking about their individual states and if there's a director there. So is there like a list somewhere of like which states have directors and who they are, so people could contact them?
Yes. So probably I'm going to get in trouble with this with Matt. So he is the director of this, the state directors, and he also follows the legislation on every state. So I will get he's going to get so mad. He's like, why did you get my email out? Probably shouldn't do that. He's probably watching it right now. But if anything, you guys can all email me at least. I won't get mad at myself at Antonia@gunowners.org, and I will immediately direct you to the person that you need to talk to for your state or just even on the national side, so you know who your person is. I promise you that. I promise it's exclusive. If you are watching on Liberty Doll, that you're allowed to email me. Okay. Anybody else that if you don't say Liberty Doll, then I'm not even gonna email you back. So there you go. Exclusive. So, yes.
Well, and I will say too, like, so I got hooked up with you because I posted on Twitter, like, hey, does anyone know how to get in contact with someone? Because I was like on the website and there was like general contact information, but I was like, oh, this is like a media thing, I should probably find someone else. And so I think it was Jordan that I talked to on Twitter, and he originally sent me to Rachel, and then he sent me to you, and like I was really surprised. I mean, I posted that and I felt like in a couple of hours he was like sending me a message with like information. So I was really impressed at like how quickly, I don't know, that they got back to me, I guess you would call it.
We really like people, I promise. No, I mean, we appreciate it. We appreciate when people like you are using your platforms to get our message out. We're very thankful for that. So I'm thankful that you were able to get feedback in a quick manner. So Jordan's awesome. He's a director of communications for GOA and has been working in GOA for years now. So he's one of the OGs. So yeah. Yeah.
How long actually has GOA been around?
I want to say, I'm not butchering this, is 1970s. So
Oh,
it started actually in
wow.
California. It started in California with GOA California, and then became a national group, GOA, Gun
Wow.
Owners of America. So yeah, it's been a long time.
Very cool. Um, Drew in Reno says Elko County in Nevada is suing the state over red flag law. Um, and oh, I guess so. I guess Eric from Iraq Veteran 8888 has started some like
Oh,
text line to give information about future Second Amendment rallies. I've seen a couple comments about this recently.
okay.
So I sell cat litter says you can text 1776 to 31996 and then you'll get notifications about Second Amendment rallies around the country. So
Yeah, I
that's pretty
know
cool.
for sure. For example, for those who are in Tennessee, just found out about this one, March 10th. That's going to be a big rally, Lobby Day rally in Nashville. So GOA is going to be a part of that as well. But yeah, if you're in Tennessee and Nashville area, Lobby Day that day, and as well as a rally. But there's a lot coming up. Of course, Pennsylvania is going to have one on June 8th. We'll be speaking at that as well in Philadelphia. So, there's a lot of that are coming up as well.
Nice. Well, so I had said that I would only keep you for about an hour. So I will still stay on if people want to hang out and chat. I have like another half an hour available. But before you go, would you like to again like give where people can contact you or GOA, and then give like whatever final words, parting words you'd like to bestow upon us?
Oh yes, because of my infinite amount of wisdom of turning 30. Um, yes. So if you guys want to get involved with GOA or become a member, of course, go through Liberty Doll, right? She's the one who's getting us all together through that. So of course, go to gunowners.org and donate or become a member. And then also, if you would like to get involved with the sanctuary, the Second Amendment sanctuary ordinances, or want to look at the templates, also go on our website, and we have not underscore slash SASOs, and those are what you will get for the templates if you're looking for something for your county or city to push the sanctuary areas. And then with Empowered 2A, if you're willing to get into the student movement or know someone that would want to get in the student movement, if you're a parent who's like, you're going to get in the student movement, son or daughter, then you can go to empowered2a.org, which also links to GOA as well. And we're taking people who are just want to get in touch with volunteering or donating, or being a state chair. So we're also taking state chairs as well.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for coming on and giving all this information and assuring us gun owners because, like I said, I mean, before talking to you and seeing some of the videos on your channel and GOA's channel, I was like, oh man, there is like no way we're going to be able to keep our rights through 2020. And after talking to you and seeing the stuff that GOA is doing, I feel a lot more optimistic. So that's good.
Good. Well, one big thing that's happening this year that hasn't happened before is essentially we're having our first annual meeting. So all GOA members is going to it's called the Gunathon, and it's going to be in April in Virginia. So if you want more details on that, just go to the website again and get more details. But it's going to be good. Yeah. So So
Maybe
gonna
I'll
bond
find
with
a way to
them.
hop on that somehow. That gives
Yes.
me a couple months to try to plan and figure it out. Maybe I'll figure
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah. Maybe you'll be speaking. I don't know. Maybe we'll be asking you soon.
I mean, I would not
You're
turn that
like,
down.
no one's talked to me about this, but yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I
God,
get
before.
sometimes I get lots of like little messages or emails from people. They're like, "Oh, would you be interested?" And then I'm like, "Yes." And then they're like, "Oh, I'm not actually affiliated with the organization." And I'm like, "Well, then why did you ask me?" That happens to me all the time.
Oh man. Okay, I will say I am affiliated with GOA. I am I'm a full time. But of course, the people who are putting on it were like, Antonia, you did not push that through me first. But yes, I'm pretty sure that we would love to have you there, and regardless of what role you're playing. But more than likely is going to be something where we're utilizing your talents. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'll keep an open mind.
Yeah. We'll let you know, and I'll make
All
sure it's me.
right. All right. So I think that I can just hit remove from stream on
Okay.
my side and then you can hang up. So,
Okay.
again, thank you so much for coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule and chatting with us and making us all feel better about 2020. And
Anytime. Thanks,
yeah.
guys.
All right.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So it's just me. It should be just me now. Yep. All right. So I don't know if you guys want to hang out. I still have another half hour that I'm available if anyone wants to stay on and chat. So I would recommend if you guys haven't, well, let me make sure I'm getting all the super chats because there was a problem last time. So I did see something interesting today that was posted on guns.com. I will, let's see, actually, if I can do a screen share. Might as well cover these things now because if you saw my little announcement on YouTube yesterday or were on the stream last week, I will not be doing my usual stream on Friday. So this stream is sort of going to be taking the place of that. And I will be on the Philosopher's channel at 7 o'clock on Friday. So we can talk about some of these things now. So I just saw this pop up today and I thought it was absolutely lovely. So there was a initiative to ban assault weapons in Florida through an organization called Ban Assault Weapons Now. And I'm actually going to change. Actually, let me take that off screen for a minute, actually, and change what monitor this is on so I'm not like looking away from you guys because I figured that out last time. Oh god, that monitor is bad. Wow. There we go. Okay. That other monitor has really bad settings. So it was ban assault weapons now. Were really active throughout 2019, and they were trying to get enough signatures to try and get an assault weapons ban put through. They needed 766,200 signatures throughout the year of registered voters to try and get this onto the general election ballot, and they got less than 150,000. I don't do math, but that's not even a quarter of what they needed. That would be what, like 15% or something like that. Someone math me. um, so what they wanted to get in was a 2-page bill that they would have proposed that would have been an amendment to the Florida state constitution, and it would ban the possession of semi-automatic rifles and shotguns capable of holding more than 10 cartridges in any fixed or detachable magazine. And of course, their version of, well, what we're learning now throughout Virginia and things going on in Washington, that the definition of so-called assault rifle or assault firearm varies greatly depending who we're talking to. A violation of the ban would have been a third-degree felony, which in Florida can be punished by up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $5,000 for owning an object that was previously legally bought. So it was really nice to see that that failed. um, and of course, there were, as I mentioned earlier, oh, someone did the math. So 25% of 150K is 37. That was not the problem that I needed, I don't think. But anyways, lots of people in the comments talking about Bloomberg. Oh, Bloomberg. Oh, and here we go. Someone says, did you hear that Wyoming, of all states, is trying to pass a red flag law they don't believe would violate due process? At this point, I am really not surprised about any states that are trying to pass red flag laws. That seems to be the like virtue signaling du jour that's going on now. Because really, you know, what it comes down to, I think, is in even in some of these like traditionally red states, even though even though these like mass shootings and things like that are not at all the typical picture of gun violence, what actually is like gang violence and things like that. And even though most of that crime is only committed by about 6% of the population, and that 6% also reoffends quite frequently, at least those were the numbers a few years ago of like criminologic populations. You know, a lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of the constituents in these states don't keep up with things like that. And so these politicians then are kind of put in a position where they have to look like they're doing something. And I think that that's what these red flag laws are. They're virtue signaling to make it look like they're doing something without having to actually really do much. I mean, and unfortunately, what is coming out of this is we are seeing things like the story that Antonia had mentioned of there was a police officer who had been involved in a shooting, and then once the red flag laws were passed, that person's mother tried to file a red flag law complaint against the police officer because there was even a catch in the law where it didn't say that it had to be a family member. It just said someone who is involved with that person. And I mean, technically speaking, if a police officer killed your son, then there is some sort of involvement there. So that has been struck down. So really, you know, it's just it's virtue signaling is what it is. Cybercant says, plus families are falling apart. Really, these things should involve families talking to each other instead of calling police on them. Absolutely. 100%. But I mean, unfortunately, and this is my libertarian coming out, the society that we live in and the government, fire makes me king, says to drink water. Thank you. The way things are right now is, and this is a very libertarian position, but the government has a monopoly on force. Because anything that the government does comes from a place of force. Anything the government does essentially comes from the barrel of a gun, right? And the ironic thing is that when it came to Virginia, there were some people over at Vice and GQ, and I think even Huffington Post maybe, saying, well, you can't say this was a peaceful rally because there were people with guns, and so their protest was at the barrel of a gun. But really, that's what government does. And so because we're in this position where government has a monopoly on force, and the laws that the government keeps passing get more and more and more overreach, then it's sort of put in a position where people feel like the only option is to call police on a family member. The only option is to go and file a red flag report. You know, people forget that we can talk to each other. And then people see these politicians saying, well, like a red flag law would have stopped this or something. I mean, and that's not really the case. I mean, look at all of these mass shooters that we've had. And if I name them, then this absolutely video will absolutely be flagged if it hasn't already. All of those shooters were people that had violent histories and had violent mental health histories. So, not just like mental health alone, but violent behaviors as a symptom of their mental illness, had made threats and things like that. But they either, the medical and psychological professionals assigned to them did not follow typical protocols, or that information did not get put into the NICS. And we saw that with the guy from, was it Sutherland Springs, that had been in the Air Force, and the Air Force didn't put the information in the NICS. I think it was Sutherland Springs. We saw that with Parkland. We saw that with Aurora. It's all come out now that these people had long, we can't call it rap sheets, but they had long histories. So would a red flag law have stopped that? Well, no, because the laws that were in place already didn't do anything. So adding another law is not going to do anything. Let's see. Yes, okay, Rose Blight says yes, that was the one, Sutherland Springs. I just saw someone said something about New York getting information on gun owners. I think, where did it go? I think they said every town for gun safety. So I haven't looked into that yet, but I will be. That frankly doesn't surprise me because that's nothing new. You guys might remember that has happened before. It happened under Obama, actually, that suddenly there were newspapers getting information of gun owners and like publishing their names and things like that. I don't remember exactly what year that was. Michael Peel says Liberty Doll, red flag laws are backdoor gun confiscate registration, I'm guessing, and part of a larger push to disarm the population. Absolutely. 45 Auto says that case in Colorado, so that was the one with the police officer, was voided because the mother lied when she said she shared a child with the cop. Ah, okay. Well, I know there is, New York also is making the push for the mental health exams. I actually have a video about that, and my camera died halfway through recording it, so I haven't I haven't gotten that up yet. Stephen Y says every town for gun safety collected $110 million to push the anti-gun rhetoric. That is terrifying. William says PA 2060 is red flag law. Dudley Brown is correct. I'm guessing PA, does that mean Pennsylvania? I did see that there was a ban on, was it 80% lowers? I believe it was Guns and Gadgets. I saw that he put out a video and a judge stopped that from going through. John Korzeniowski says, I have to agree these shooters all had mental issues. However, is there a common medication link between several of them? So this actually belongs in last week's stream, and I should have talked about it then. But the thing with medications is you cannot, like, you cannot determine what illness someone has based on what medication they're on. And these medications can have side effects, but not side effects that would turn someone that homicidal, where they would be planning things for long periods of time. Because I mean, none of these guys said like, hey, I'm going to go do this and did it the next day. They had to collect the weapons, they had to collect the ammo, they had to like figure out what they were doing. So I would say that really the fact that they were on medications is more proof, it's more a symptom of the problem and proof that there was a problem rather than the problem itself. And I'm not someone, I'm not a big medication person. I'm only a therapist, so I also can't prescribe medications. I don't recommend medication in most cases. Um, Unless someone has a really severe or like organic disorder and is distressed by it or is unable to function through it. So, like severe schizophrenia or bipolar that someone can't control on their own or hasn't been able to recognize the patterns to take measures to stop episodes, things like that. Um, uh, let's see. Someone's saying that Utah should charge Mitt Romney sedition versus the state. Um, Will F says mental issues alone doesn't make you a mass murderer. Absolutely, 100%. The bulk of people that do suffer from um, mental issues, I guess to use your words, depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, whatever, are not violent people. Even most people with those more severe chronic illnesses like schizophrenia, PTSD, whatever, are not violent people. What I like to point out, when I say, these people have issues, is like, look at, I really think, I look at the, you know, mass violence situation kind of like how we would look at the serial killers and spree killers that we saw in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, right? No one would look at Ted Bundy and say that he was a healthy guy. No one would look at John Wayne Gacy and say that he was a perfect picture of adaptive functioning, right? But they all had similar issues. And that's impulse control issues, lack of empathy. Basically, it's, most people say, you get really upset about something and you're like, oh man, I could just punch this person. But you have a set of brakes in your head, right, that stop you from doing that. These people don't have the brakes, or their brakes are really worn out. That's the difference. It is a mental issue, but it's in a totally different category from someone with depression or anxiety or something like that. Um, uh, Walmart deal says Charles Whitman, he asked to have his brain examined. I'm actually not um, familiar with Charles Whitman. Oh, conservatarian 17. I just saw he said since the 90s prescription ADHD and psychosis meds have skyrocketed. That is true. Part of that is because those are the new like pop psychology issues. So just like there's pop culture and like pop medical issues, there are pop mental health issues or pop psychology issues where right now I think it's like ADHD and autism, basically, where some issue gets brought into the mainstream by something, and then you have all these people being like, oh, so bipolar, for example. Oh, well, I have mood swings, so I must be bipolar. And then they go to their doctor and they're like, man, I have mood swings. Maybe I have bipolar. And then they research bipolar. And then they see the symptoms of bipolar. And then they try to fit those to their life. And then they go to the doctor and rattle off all the symptoms of bipolar and say they have it when they really don't. You see that with ADHD in the 70s. It was multiple personality disorder that happened with, actually. And part of that, too, was the fault of the mental health practitioners because, like, multiple personality disorder, we now call it dissociative identity disorder. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it, but like, it would be, a lot of people think that, oh, well, that would be the most fascinated thing I could ever do. And so they want to be able to treat someone with that. And so then they misread symptoms or misdiagnose it or accidentally persuade people that they have it. And plus, it doesn't help the pharmaceutical companies, the way that they market commercials. I mean, you've all seen it. You have all seen like the antidepressant commercials that say, do you ever have trouble sleeping? Do you ever feel down and blue? And that is a specific type of leading question where if someone says to you, well, yeah, do you have trouble sleeping? Well, then in your brain, you're going to start thinking of all of the times that you had trouble sleeping. And then you're going to say, well, actually, yeah, I do have trouble sleeping. And then before you know it, you are, um, aiding and abetting this overdiagnosis. Cybercant says, and the therapists are aiding them. Like, not sometimes yes and no. Um, let's see. Oh, Sam is here. Hi, Sam Colt is here. Hello. He says, sorry, LD. Sorry that I'm late. Someone should medicate Pelosi. Oof. Oof. She, oh, I just almost witnessed a car accident in front of my window. Yeah, Pelosi threw a temper tantrum. Poop Shoot says that WebMD is amazing. I found my headache is from my anal cancer. Timothy 3:1-11 says, do antidepressants really work or just make the state not have you be a gun owner? So, I mean, they work in that. See, the pop psychology version is that if you have depression, you have a chemical imbalance. That is not true at all. I'd say 90% of cases of depression, for example, are situational. They are some situation in your life, your environment, whatever, that are causing you to feel that way. Antidepressants work because basically they stop your neurons from reabsorbing your serotonin. So you have extra serotonin like floating around in your brain, and serotonin is the happiness chemical. So in that way, yes, antidepressants work. There is always the risk of side effects. But, oops, I just saw another super chat that I missed. Great Informer says, share this live stream. Censorship is getting worse. I will say, so I did legitimately I advertised this all over Twitter, and anytime that I put Antonia's handle in the tweet, it got like one like and maybe like one share. If I put a picture of her instead or linked the actual live stream, it got way more views. And you can actually, there's a feature on there where you can see how many impressions the tweet is getting. And the difference between putting her name in it versus not putting her name in it was like crazy. So, I'm actually really surprised. The video that I posted this morning, I'll actually double check. Last time I looked, it had not been flagged, which really, really surprised me because normally at this point, everything that I post now is automatically flagged. And no, it is still up and not flagged, which is really surprising because I put guns in the tag and in the title, gun owners. I've been trying to figure out what flags the system really, but typically I post a video and either instantly or within 30 seconds it is flagged. And when it is flagged, it is no longer monetized. And if it's not monetized, YouTube won't push it as much, so then it doesn't pop onto people's news feeds. It doesn't get put into suggested videos. And I can actually, so 50 TNCSA says, oh, you posted a video. I'm not getting notifications for you then. No, I posted a video at 11:30 this morning. And I know that there's been times that like Jared has posted something and I don't get the notification until like hours later. And sometimes I get it right away. So, I mean, some of that just could be YouTube not being good at what it's supposed to do. But I do suggest everyone, if you really want to stay up to date and stay informed, ring the notification bell. I mean, I hate having to say that, but yeah. And I've had people complaining of their comments being deleted. Q says that Twitter used to delete my comments arguing against Obama policy. No other comments, just those. They were not anything bad. And this is something that Tim Pool talks about a lot. I know there's some people that are not his biggest fan, but he does talk a lot about like the censorship and things like that. John Sparks says, thank you, LD. Most people are depressed are for good reason. Yep. And Zen Strata says they can also be quite addictive. Yes and no. So your benzodiazepines, those are your things like your Xanax, Ativan, things like that, can be addictive and can be abused. Antidepressants, they're not addictive so much as your body develops dependence on them. So addiction and dependence are sort of different things, or at least they have different connotations. So someone isn't taking the antidepressant to like get high, but what happens without it is your body is like, hey, what happened to all this extra serotonin we had? And then you can get mood swings, insomnia, anxiety, headaches, and these things, forget the name for it, but it's kind of like electric shocks feeling that goes through your body. Those are all symptoms of withdrawal from SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, your Zoloft, Prozac, Paxil, things like that. Let's see. Charles Whitman was the clock tower shooter in Texas. He claimed he had an uncontrollable urge to do that and asked for an autopsy, and they did find a brain tumor. Oh, yeah, brain tumors can definitely affect things 100%. Someone just said Eric Pratt for president, head cracker. Pratt would make a good candidate. I mean, he would probably get my vote. So some people are asking who the libertarian candidate is. So I admittedly have been a bad libertarian, but I'm a small L anyways, and not a big L. So I don't know. I do know that Vermin Supreme won in New Hampshire, which is kind of amazing. Who else? Dan Taxation is Theft Bergman, I think is his last name, is running. Adam Kokesh is running. There's a woman running that I forget who she is. I haven't really been paying much attention to it. They usually have the primaries. Trying to remember because the last time I actually watched them live was in obviously 2016, and it was on a holiday weekend. I feel like I want to say it's in May. I feel like the primaries are in May, so there's still a couple of months before the libertarian people get hooked up. Oh, gun websites. Thank you. He says support the stuff Liberty Doll creates and linked my Patreon. Zen Strata says, unfortunately, it doesn't matter who the third candidate is. We basically only have two choices when it comes to presidential elections. So, and then 45 Auto says Gary Johnson isn't running this time. He is not. Bill Weld is running. So he was running as the VP on the Libertarian ticket last time around. Bill Weld is running on the Republican ticket against Trump. But from the caucus numbers that I think finally came out, Trump had like 97%, and Bill Weld actually got himself like 1%, which is something. I personally don't like the guy. He's a politician from Massachusetts. I do not trust any of them. And yeah, Gary Johnson was not the best choice. But so the whole point for me of the third parties voting third parties in an election like this is if the third party gets 5% or more on either the national level or on the state level, then they become an official party and get easier ballot access and get to have debates and things like that. So, and actually in 2016, the Libertarians did get 5% of the vote, so that did make them an official party in the state of Massachusetts. So now they have ballot access without having to jump through all of the hoops. And quite frankly, all but one county voted for Hillary Clinton in Massachusetts. So, I mean, it's not like going in and voting for Trump is really going to change anything in Massachusetts as far as like the electoral college and all of that. So it was more 5% of the popular vote for Libertarian Party, try to get that through to give them full party status. Prothopector says, I hope Vermin Supreme wins. um, Chris White says, can you do a range day video? So my range does not allow video, and honestly, I don't really have time to practice, so I'm probably a really bad shot right now. But Jared did offer to take me out at one point. And oh yes, we are working on doing a couple of meetups. One will be at the Minuteman in Templeton. Let me pull it up. Minuteman Gun Shop in West Templeton, I believe it is, Massachusetts. And the other one, I forget where he said. We're still picking on dates. It looks like it might be like March 28th, but it's not set in stone yet. So there will be a couple of meetups at gun shops and things in Massachusetts this year. I do plan, once I move out of this state and can be in like a freedom zone, I will be doing some range videos once I move to another state. Absolutely. But right now, it's just crazy. And we used to go shooting every weekend, and then there was the great ammo shortage of whatever year it was. And I mean, Massachusetts was pretty dry for ammo, especially 22, for a couple of years. And the prices went up crazy. And Massachusetts already has, like, I think it's 100% tax on ammo. And they're trying to put in another 50% on top of that. So on top of like the prices and, you know, a lack of time and my range not really allowing photography and not really having room for it, it just gets complicated. Oh, someone's familiar with a Minuteman because they said it in there. Q says a gun shop in Mass. Do they sell Nerf guns? There are actually more gun shops around here than you would guess. Moreau family says Minuteman Armory is awesome. Mike Fawbush says I try to go to the range once a month. Well, we also used to have a membership at a public range, and they had an issue there and temporarily got shut down, and then they put a lot of restrictions in. And because it was a public range, there were some people that were not as good with their gun safety as they could have been, because anyone from the street could like walk in and rent something. So yeah, after we left there, that's when things got a little rocky, and it took us a while to find a place to go after that. Headcracker says they have a wonderful selection of neutered ARs. Yes, I've seen it. They just got them in recently. All right, so it is just about 6:40, so I'm going to go through and make sure I did not miss any super chats, and then I'm going to wrap it up because I do have to technically go back to work in 20 minutes, and I'm working until like 10 o'clock tonight. So let me pull those up and make sure I got everybody. Whoops, that's the wrong button. I'm sorry, I'm getting like sniffly all of a sudden and like sniffing at the mic here. Oh, that's interesting. YouTube is behind. All right. So Julian Navarro says, keep up the good work. Hashtag Latinos for Trump 2020. Trashman says, how out of control is the turning some mental problems into a fad, really? Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's that's a tough one. Yeah, that's a tough one, because I mean, I wouldn't say it's not that it's medicalizing issues, but so for example, ADHD is a really popular one now, and like I'm sure you all know someone who says their kid has ADHD when really it's probably their kid just being a kid. So I mean, it is problematic. Multi-Drider says, did you hear Trump now calls Bloomberg Mini Mike because he is 5'8"? Should this be our new nickname for Bloomberg? I mean, why not, man? The guy's basically a cyborg. Did you see the video of him trying to pet a dog and instead he just like grabbed the dog's like top part of his mouth and like shook his head? Like, what? And I'm going to put this back in. I put it in the chat once, but I'll put it again. The text line for the Iraq veteran rally line. And also, if you did not watch today's video yet, oh, and Rebecca Clark says SAF is fighting Inslee but could use help. So if you haven't seen the video yet from today, right now for the month of February, if you sign up for USCCA through my link, any new membership actually puts you in a chance to win. I think they have some firearms that they're rotating through, but also $25,000. So if you're not a member of USCCA yet, you can hop through my link to go do that. I also have Gun Owners of America down in the description. I don't get any kickbacks or anything from that. That's just their link that they have. And William says, always surprises me that more rules will stop people that don't care about the rules. Yes. So I think that is everybody that I got. So, someone says ADHD means that you don't go outside enough. That is true. And at 2 Timothy 3, I'm not going to read all of that, says life member of GOA. That's awesome. They did convert me last year when I was looking for someone because I was like, oh man, I had dropped the NRA years ago. And I was like, well, I feel like I need to be part of like something. And so I settled on GOA. So I'm glad to know how much they're doing because I feel like it's not completely publicized everything that they're doing. Like I had no idea about some of the work that they were doing. So check out Gun Owners of America. Antonia said you can go on the website and email Eric Pratt or her, and they'll give you like the information of who your state director or state chair is if you have one. If you don't have one, then maybe someone that might be good for the position. You can recommend them. Check out the text line that I posted in the chat for the Second Amendment rallies. Find your local gun group, sign up for their notifications so you can keep up to date with what's going on in your state. And I guess that is where we will wrap it for today. I'm not going to confirm. Walmart deal is asking if I carry at work. I can neither confirm nor deny that statement. Classic therapist move. I cannot confirm or deny. All right, so that's where we're going to wrap it again. So again, remember, no live stream this Friday. This took the place of that. I will be on the Philosopher's channel instead. The week after that, we have James Spivey. I'm not sure how to say it. I have to check before he comes on. He is running for State Senate in Virginia, and I believe he's going to be bringing Madison Downs with him, who is also running. So they will be on the 14th. I know it's Valentine's Day, but whatever. We'll be here. We'll be hanging out for Valentine's Day, so you guys can come check that out. All right, folks. So that is it for today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I know it was a different day and a different time slot, so a lot of you are going to be going back and like watching the rerun. Yeah, so I'm glad that we were able to do this and we were able to have Antonia on. And everyone have a good night, and I will catch you on the next one. As always, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe and happy shooting.